Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Wilson, and I'm the chair of the Cape Breton Regional Chamber of Commerce's Board of Directors. Welcome to the Chamber's Mayoral Candidates Forum. I would first like to acknowledge that we are gathered here on the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people, Unama'ki. Together, we honor and respect the treaties of friendship as we gather here today. The Chamber of Commerce is a nonpartisan organization that works with all levels of government and elected officials and respects each one in their particular role. We have come a long way in the past number of years here in CBRM, and there is a renewed sense of optimism for our economy and our future. It is important to have you all here today to have these discussions that are specific to the opportunities and challenges of our business community and how our regional government plays an important role in the advancement of economic development. I'd like to remind you that voting opens tomorrow, and everyone should have received their PIN in the mail, as voting is completely online this year. I can't stress enough the importance of voting and making an informed decision, which is why events like today are so important. At this point, most, if not all of you, should have received your lunch. In just a few moments, our CEO of the Chamber, Kathleen Yurchison, will join us at the front of the room to explain the format of today's forum and will be our moderator for our forum discussion. Thank you all again for joining here in person today. I hope you all enjoy the discussion amongst our 2020 mayoral candidates.
Okay, so welcome everyone. As Michelle mentioned, my name is Kathleen Yurchison, and I'm the CEO of the Cape Breton Regional Chamber of Commerce. It is certainly very nice to be physically back in a space with not all our membership and certainly not in the same quantities that we're used to, but it's incredibly refreshing. It's been 8 months since the Chamber has done anything in person, so I'm really thankful that you all took the time to be with us today. For today's event, of course, we have Chamber members in the room, but we also are live streaming on our Chamber Facebook page as well as Seaside Communications YouTube page, and that is due to the great partnership that we have with Seaside Communication. I would also like to say a thank you to our sponsor of today's luncheon, the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors, and we have some of their membership in our room today. I now would like to welcome our 2020 mayoral candidates to the stage. From my right and your left, we have Mr. Kevin McCachran.
Thank you.
Mayor Cecil Clark.
Good day.
Mr. Chris Abbas. Mr. John Strasser. And Councillor Amanda McDougall.
Thank you.
So I also would like to send regrets from Mr. Archie McKinnon. Unfortunately, he had a personal matter come up at the last minute, and he sent his regrets earlier this morning. So before we get started, I just wanted to quickly discuss the format. So we have a number of questions to get through over the next 75 minutes or so. And this form is designed for each of our candidates to individually respond to the questions asked and provide our audience with their approach and opinion on each. Every candidate, other than the first question, which I'll explain in a moment, will have 90 seconds or a minute and a half to answer that question. Once every candidate answers the question, we will then circle back to each candidate in the same order in which the question was asked, providing them an additional 30 seconds to add to their initial response. Michaela Epifano, who is a staff member of our Chamber of Commerce, is sitting before all the candidates. She is our lovely timer for today. So she will raise her hand when your time is up. Again, you will have that additional 30 seconds as we circle back through. The questions in today's form were prepared through the suggestions of the submissions of questions and topics from our membership, many of which are in the room today. We would also, we certainly could spend all day talking about the many questions on numerous important issues and opportunities in our region, but unfortunately, due to time, we can't. So because this is a chamber-led discussion, the questions being asked today are focused specifically on business and economic development for our region. For each question, I, as your moderator, I'm going to take some time to contextualize the topic and the question before I ask the specific question. This is to provide both our audience and our candidates with key information about the topic to help frame the question, so I please ask that you just bear with me. It will take probably about 45 seconds to about a minute before each question. As Michelle Wilson mentioned in our opening remarks, the Chamber of Commerce is a nonpartisan organization that works with all levels of government and all parties and all of our elected officials. And we look forward to working with our new mayor after October 17th for the next 4 years. We have about 75 minutes together, and so we are going to get started. Everyone should have water. Certainly let me know if you need any more. And I would like to say one housekeeping item. We all know the drill for social distancing, but if you do need to get up from your table during the forum and use the washroom or go out outside the room, I do ask you to please put back on your mask, but certainly you are not required to wear your mask while you're sitting, eating, and socializing. All right, so we are going to give, the first question is only a minute, not 90 seconds. And again, Michaela will be giving you your cues for time. So we're going to begin by asking each candidate to take 1 minute and introduce yourself. So we're going to start with Mayor Clark.
Thank you very much. Well, it's great to be here and build on, quite frankly, the last years of progress that we've had to reduce our debt by $40 million, to make tough choices to get our fiscal house in order, to make sure that we have the capacity today to reduce our debt servicing from $18 million to $11 million, to now realize opportunities for the first time in our lifetime. Young people will have the choice to stay here on our island and create new economic opportunities for all of our fellow citizens, to be a vibrant, dynamic community. And I look forward to building on the success that I've had working with council, working with the other levels of government, and with our business community. But we do have other barriers and challenges we need to address. And that's what I look forward to, working with the next council. And I look forward to this opportunity today to discuss specifically economy, is what is going to drive our community forward and build us up. And again, I look forward to all this dialogue with our friends. And I do want to wish Mr. McKinnon's wife every success as well, and good health.
Mr. Strasser.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me begin by thanking the Chamber for hosting this luncheon. If you do a quick recap of history, notice a few things. 1900, 120 years ago, we had 1,000 people working at the steel operations and the coal mine. We had net earnings in 1958, I'm skipping a few decades here, of more than $5 million, most of it going to Central Canada. And in 1960, which is recent history, we were the 4th largest employer in Canada at the steel operations. So here we are, we're in a new century, new decade. Where do we go from here? Well, if the progress that I just heard about from the former speaker
Mr. Strasser, that's time, but you can certainly circle back.
Okay.
Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming today. I think I'm just going to use this time to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm pretty sure that's what the question was. I'm 58 years old. I was born and raised right here in Sydney, Nova Scotia. I've been an employer here. I've been an employee. I've been stone cold broke in this town. I've had times when I'm doing pretty well. I know what it's like to try to pay taxes. I know what it's like to have to go away to keep your family intact or keep your home. My dad was a businessman here in Sydney. He operated a business called Abba Studios. He probably took wedding pictures of some of the people in this room, I'm sure. I learned a lot of business values from my father and from my uncle, and I'd really like to portray them right here to you in the mayor's chair. Thank you very much.
Mr. McCachran.
Hello, was born here in Sydney. I was born actually in Whitney Pier, raised in Big Pond. I've been away for quite a number of years working. I am back here. I am a business owner here in Sydney. I've got a few businesses here, myself, my wife, my family. I do want to work with everyone here. I actually really enjoy speaking with all of our candidates here as well. I don't believe in the backstabbing and the dirty politics. Let's try to work together. We work together. We do things properly. We work with all the candidates. Be friendly. Be a family. Let's get this working together for everyone. We do have to create more jobs here in Sydney. We have a large amount of property here that is available to put up new businesses. Let's get this done, and let's do it together.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber for organizing today. I am the daughter of a veteran of the Armed Forces and a retired nurse. Spent my life moving around and spent our summers in Manadoo, and am one of the young families that Mr. Clark mentioned that, you know, is making it do here in Cape Breton, and happily and feeling very blessed to be able to do so. What we need here is a new equation. We need to figure out what the needs of people are directly from the people. We need to know and hear the expertise of business and how to grow our sectors and industry here. And we have to know very clearly how the municipality can provide support for both. I had a very quick conversation with some students at Mayoral University yesterday, and very quickly I realized they are not connected to the municipal decision-making process, even though they are our generation to come. That is what my plan is. It's simple, it's clear, it's bringing people back into the municipal decision-making process.
Thank you. Okay, we're now going to move into the questions. So again, 90 seconds or a minute and a half, and then I'll certainly circle back. Everyone will have an additional 30 seconds. According to the Harvard Business School, the actions taken, results generated, and relationship formed by a leader in their first 90 days in a new role are critical to the success and the effectiveness of the organization. It is said that how a leader spends their first 90 days in a new role is indicative of how they will spend their next 3 to 5 years. In your first 90 days as mayor, how do you plan to spend your time? And what actions will you take, what results will you want to see, and what relationships will you seek to form or nurture during that time? Mr. Strasser, we'll start with you.
I think the secret to success in the CBRM is all about jobs. We've lost a lot. We're talking 20, 30,000 people in the last 30 years, excuse me. And I think it's really about getting jobs here. And so we have to get the talent outside of the council who are available to us and begin to look at where we can make an impact. We have a tremendous island, a lot of natural resources, and we have to move forward in that direction.
Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. As I said in my platform, immediately upon being elected mayor, I plan to strike a mayor's task force on child poverty right here in the CBRM. I just have to say it's first and foremost what we need to take care of. I mean, these people are living right here with us, and we need to help them, facilitate them back into society where they can be a productive member of society. You know, you'll have to excuse me that I don't have a platitudinal way of speaking like the two incumbents on stage here, Mr. Clark and Councillor McDougall. I tend to speak more directly, so as well, in my first 90 days, I'm going to take a look at the finances. I'm going to take a look at the expenditures by council and by non-members of council that do traveling with the city, and I'm going to get it under wraps. I think that how the mayor and council conduct their own personal expenses says a lot about how they conduct the city's expenses. Thank you.
Mr. McCachran.
Well, within the first 90 days of starting, the first thing I want to do is I want to get in and again check everything out, see what it's doing. I want to meet with all the constituents of the CBRM. Anybody that has concerns, I will meet them with them, find out what their concerns are, dive in head first, get things done. I want to be able to work with everybody on an open and honest basis. I want complete transparency. I don't want any behind doors meetings. I want everything done publicly. I want to invite members of the Mi'kmaq community in as well, because they are very, very important to us here. I want to actually invite in some of my employees, some of the students, foreign students, come in, express their concerns as to what's going on here. Work with everybody.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. In the first 90 days, the first thing we need to do is set our course. We need to prepare the new council to do their jobs and do it well by offering a councillor training process so they understand who to call and how to navigate this position. The second thing we have to do is sit down and come up with a strategic plan for the next 4 years. We need to listen to community stakeholders who are invited to participate in the process and know firsthand from businesses what we have to do to have a successful next 4 years. It's easy to go in there and feel completely alone. I know going in there as a first-term counselor, I wish I had a little bit more support in terms of knowing how to do this job effectively, and I feel like I wouldn't have had to kind of waste a little bit of time early on doing it alone. So if we can give the new council the tools that they need to serve the people of the CBRM correctly, I think we'll be off to a good start. It also offers an opportunity for us to be able to measure our successes and track what we're doing on the ground each day by having that plan to go to on a monthly basis and say, okay, we're doing well here, we're not doing so well in the business sector, we need to change our bylaws, we need to do this, and we have a way of being very transparent to the public in terms of the work that we are doing and not.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, thanks very much. Well, first and foremost, I want to build on what has been my standing practice to have an open door policy to all members of council and all staff. You have to make sure that with a predominantly new council that they feel welcome, but also help facilitate, and that is what I'm very proud of, working as presiding officer. And also, we have some very weighty things that a new council are going to have to look at. We have a new municipal planning strategy that the Chamber will play a key role in. We've been working with the province on the red tape reduction in terms of municipal modernization. Our planning and development, with the pandemic, we've seen opportunities to go online, and we have to talk about how do we make the operating of the CBRM more business and people friendly. We're seeing those opportunities come forward. We're also recognizing that we need to have more diversity and inclusion in our community. We've heard that loud and clear. We have to address all the issues around accessibility. And most importantly, a new council is going to be thrust into a new budget process. And that budget process is going to take in the realities of COVID-19, the uncertainties, the need for recovery, and also the need for a steady hand as the presiding officer and mayor to help guide people forward. I see that as being strengths that I've brought. And again, always having an open door to any councillor at any time to get in touch with me so that we work collaboratively. That will be the going forward, but also recognizing as coming through this pandemic, recovery is going to take new efforts and new approaches. But at the same time, we have to deal with one of the biggest burdens, which is residential and commercial taxes. We have to look at the impact of deed transfer tax on
That's
business.
time, Clerk.
Thank you.
Mayor Clerk. Okay, so we're going to circle back. Again, that 30 seconds. So, Mr. Strasser, do you have anything to add?
Sure. The saying that is credited to the Newfoundlanders applies very well to some of the stuff I've heard here already today. And they say, if you don't know where you're going, stand still, you might already be there. We're not making progress in the CBRM. We're doing things, but we're not making progress. I'm going to challenge each of you in the room. Think of the 5 highest priorities that the CBRM now has. I'll bet you won't get to 5.
Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. As I said before, I don't really speak in platitudes, but I just find it kind of ironic that someone, if you would ask them what they would do in their first 90 days, they're going to tell you they're going to start a 4-year strategic plan. Or if you ask them what they're going to do in the first 90 days, and they give you a 1 minute full of platitudes that I really don't understand myself. As I said in my first 90 days, I'm going to look after the people of CBRM that are in crisis with poverty-stricken issues, and then I'm going to look after the expenses because they're way out of hand.
Thank you. Mr. McCachran.
Okay, excuse me. Like I said before, I do want to work with everybody. The poverty is a big issue here. We do actually want to get some social workers working with the police department here. We want to try to get things done. I want to do everything openly. I want all constituents in the CBRM to know exactly what is going on at all times. That is very, very important. I've actually talked to numerous people sitting in front of my business the last couple of weeks, people coming in and asking me questions about stuff. There's a lot of things here that just don't add up. We want to get things
That's
done.
time.
Thank you.
Councillor McDougall?
Thank you. I think also in that 90 days, it's important to recognize the good things that are actually happening on the ground here in the CBRM. When we talk about COVID recovery, we need to go to where our strengths are. We look at the tourism industry. We look at the fact that we've got houses being sold. We are growing new businesses. Businesses are being creative and pivoting to be able to deal with these crazy times that are so unprecedented, but doing it amazingly. We need to work on, based on our strengths that we have right now in the CBRM.
Mayor Clark?
So I want to continue to build. Like we achieved success in the last year of $38 million. When people talk about getting our fair share, we negotiated more so we could achieve more with our public works and cleaner, greener environment. The NSCC facilitating these types of developments, our second birth, our public work projects that are everywhere that construction is happening right now. The housing market is at an all-time high right now as well, and we have to seize those opportunities. And the new investment in dollars that are coming from the private sector. There's 5 very good things that are happening in the CBRM.
Thank you. Okay, on to the next question. The McConnell Library, located in downtown Sydney, is in need of replacing, as this essential piece of social and community infrastructure is failing year over year, requiring millions of dollars worth of renovations, which would still not provide additional much-needed space for our community. For the past decade, and most recently the last 2 years, under the Waterfront Development Agreement between the CBRM and the private sector, a proposed new library on the Sydney waterfront has been a hot topic through the community, amongst our elected officials, and within the council chambers. The Chamber of Commerce and our business community have advocated for it as a key piece of infrastructure on our waterfront for our downtown revitalization, as well as the social and economic development of our entire region. Furthermore, this project could provide an incredible opportunity to advance Cape Breton and Unama'ki with a reconciliation project that would distinguish us on a national stage as a progressive, determined, and forward-looking community. With the shift in the world in 2020 and our federal and provincial government's priorities as it pertains to significant increased investment around economic stimulus and infrastructure spending, if you were to be elected mayor, what level of importance would you place the new Central Library in terms of a priority on your municipal agenda, and do you see it as a reconciliation project? We'll start with Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. The library is a big deal to a lot of people. It's a big deal to me, I guess. I mean, maybe not as big a deal as to a lot of people, but it's an awful lot of money. I understand Councilor McDougall has said it's in the neighborhood of $4 million. I'd like to see a new library, but as I said in my platform, I wanted to build a wellness center right here in Cape Breton. And I can see the library being a big part of a wellness center. I mean, it is a thing that brings communities together, brings people together. It's where people go and socialize. It's where they gather information. It's where they share information. So I think it would be a great part of the wellness center. And if I can build this wellness center, I guarantee you there'll be a new library in it. Thank you.
Mr. McCachran.
My personal opinion, I think it's a waste of money. We have a nice library here. It does need a lot of remodeling and upgrades. That money should go into that, put it together, build on what we have, create jobs to do the renovation on this building. I do understand that there's a lot of money there, but to build a new library at this time, no, I don't believe that's feasible. I think that that money that's there should go to help the people of the CBRM. Put in the wellness center, as Mr. Abbas said. We definitely need that. Hire some social workers to work with the police department here. That has to get done. We have to get them people in there to work with our neighborhoods. The library we have right now, it is an older building. It does need a lot of renovations. Hiring people, get them in there, get them working. Job creation. That's #1 priority right now for CBRM, job creation. Let's get this done.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. So as chair of the current library board, I know, like most of you in this room know, how important it is that we do get a new central library. We are bursting at the seams, and the demands on the services and programming that come out of our library network that span both CBRM and Victoria County are increasing and becoming more complex day by day. My worry is that we look at this as an economic driver rather than first and foremost what it is. This is an important piece of social infrastructure for so many people, specifically the vulnerable communities within our municipality. We are now stuck. We're trapped into a terrible funding formula from the province for the next 5 years. We need to keep advocating for a new library, and we need to keep advocating for more fair funding. We were the lowest increase of library funding in the province this year, and we are trapped again for 5 years in a service that we are becoming more downloaded onto by the province. Our library technicians in our elementary schools are gone. Now that responsibility falls onto our library network. We have folks that are dependent on that space as a safe place to go look for jobs, to go and find resources to help them in terms of mental health services that our health system is currently not providing them. We need to do better. People deserve a new central library, but I really feel strongly that we have to look at this as a social piece of infrastructure first and foremost, and hopefully the economic benefits will soon follow after.
Mayor Clark?
Great question, and we want to build on the efforts right now. We've renewed our police and fire infrastructure and buildings, and when we look to the next administration, council will have to consider the renovations and expansion of Centre 200, estimated at $17 million, and a new central library. And again, this is not just a Sydney library, it is the central library. I've been very pleased that we've seen either replacement or renewal of Sydney Mines, North Sydney, New Waterford, Glace Bay, and support for our community libraries throughout the CBRM. A strong central library is something we deserve here. We've heard it very clearly. There's investments in our capital region. We deserve no less as a learning and literacy place and economic opportunities. We talk about our growing community. So again, we've put in $7 million into the debt management model for the municipality. We are consulting with our Mi'kmaq neighbors about the whole reconciliation piece. And the next phase right now is to look at where we go with engineering to design. There's a $75,000 operating study that will be complete shortly. The next wave is engineering and design, anticipated at 1.2 to 1.5 million. We're asking ACOA and the province to work with the municipality to accelerate those next steps, or if there's funds available through the infrastructure programs the federal government's announcing, maybe we can accelerate that and take advantage of those dollars and to have a green, inclusive reconciliation, but actually a central library we deserve that also supports Victoria County. So again, I'm very much behind this. We've put it into our debt affordability model. It's just about getting the partners to the table.
Mr. Strasser?
Well, first of all, if you're going to build a central library, it's not on the waterfront in Sydney because that wouldn't be central to CBRM. You need parking. You need it to make it accessible for everybody to take advantage of that library. But it wouldn't be one of the first 5 priorities that the CBRM needs, not in my book.
Thank you. So now for the 30 seconds. So again, to reiterate the question, what level of importance would you put the new central library in terms of priority on your list? And do you see it as a reconciliation project? We'll start back with Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. Well, I got to tell you, I feel that the mayor and council have dropped the ball on the library. Councillor McDougall just said that the provincial government and the Board of Education has removed these library personnel from there. Well, then why wasn't the mayor and councillor on the Board of Education saying, no, we need these people. You can't take them away from us. They just absolutely dropped the ball. And as far as the new Nova Scotia Community College going down there, how come nobody went to these people and said, hey, you're building a big, huge building down there. Can we sneak our library in?
That's time. Mr. McCachran?
Okay, with the library, parking is number one issue. With the university as well as parking is an issue. The estimate is going to be a bottleneck once that's opened. I think that's probably one of the worst places they could have picked for it. There's a lot of property over on the north end of Sydney. That's where the NSCC should have gone. If they do build a library, that's where that should be as well. Get some area in there, get people in there working, get some parking for people, so we're not all blocked in all the time. It's going to be a bloody bottleneck here.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. So the library board currently has a $2.8 million operating budget. We know that budget needs to increase if we're going to expand the services that the people of the CBRM and Victoria County so desperately need. We did try as a council to engage conversation around the NSCC. There is no option there for a library to fit into with that infrastructure. What we have to do is get creative here, and we have to be strong and demand that the province look at us fairly and fund the services that are so needed for our residents here in the CBRM.
Mayor Clark.
So when we look at the existing McConnell facility, it does have a next life purpose, I do believe, but you have to look at the 2012 study that clearly put up to $13 million in needed upgrades versus a replacement facility. It had everything from ventilation upgrades, electrical services, lighting systems, fire alarm systems, hazardous materials, accessibility upgrades, need for space for librarian, as well as an oil interceptor. These are not small matters that, if we're going to go forward, let's invest in the future rather than go back and put a Band-Aid on the past. And thank you.
Mr. Strasser.
I don't think my response last time was very fuzzy to anybody, so I don't have any further comment.
Perfect, thank you. All right, we'll now move on to the next question. The container port has also been a project of significant discussion over the past number of years within our community and amongst our chamber membership. This development is set to bring significant investment and jobs to Cape Breton and Nova Scotia. In addition to the port, an upgraded rail line will unlock significant potential for local and provincial businesses to expand into new port markets while reducing the carbon footprint of trade. Rail is a key piece of infrastructure required to advance the port. It is also part of a regional transportation strategy that will support and unlock significant sectors that will provide economic growth here in Cape Breton, including our natural resource sector. As mayor, do you support the revitalization of the rail line in Cape Breton from Port Hawkesbury to Sydney? And if yes, how do you plan to support the advancement of this file to ensure our rail is revitalized here in the CBRM? If you do not support this file, then you can share with why not. We'll start with Mr. McCachran.
Okay, yes, I do support it. If we do get this container port going, the rail is the most important part. I believe we have to get people working on that, not just ourselves, the provincial government, the federal government, everything has to work on this with us. One of the questions I do have in regards to that is how much of the Sydport area does the CBRM actually still own or control? That's one of the main questions I have right now. Because there's a lot of stories going around. I don't know if they're all stories or not, but I want to know how much is still owned and controlled by the CBRM.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. I like the way that you phrase this in terms of looking at this as a regional transportation strategy. I think first and foremost, I want to make clear that I support 100% the purchase and ownership of the rail for our province. You need only go to any other province and realize the development that comes with rail transportation for not only the business sector and industries, but also for moving people around in a very environmentally and economically feasible way. What I would do in order to assure that this file moves forward is, like you mentioned, Port Hawkesbury is involved in this. We need to look to our First Nations communities. We need to look to the municipalities on this island and come together as an island and present our case. That rail is not going to simply benefit those in the CBRM. This is a potential game changer for the entire island. So ensuring that we have everybody on the island in terms of municipal, provincial, federal leadership, our First Nations bands, all together and using our voices in a unified way to promote this regional transportation strategy, that is how you're going to win it. Going at things alone is not going to make things happen anymore. We need a spirit of collaboration, and we need to act in that spirit consistently.
Mayor Clark.
I just want to build on what Amanda's talked about because I share the same sentiment, and that is we have to look at the current opportunities before us and what has changed. Well, we know now that we have traffic. Over 100,000 rail cars are being transferred in Moncton right now that are going on road infrastructure. And $100 million to upgrade rail versus one section of Twin Highway at $274 million for 39 kilometers. It's the green thing to do. But the second opportunity, as our Prime Minister has said, this is the national infrastructure priority, is to shift to greener economy and greener forms of transportation. So taking those two pieces there and putting them together, I think allows us to have a strategic advantage, building on what Scotia Rail Development Society here in our community has done. I've been in the Moncton marshalling yard, and to see literally those cars coming off a rail going into a congested transport network when we could have it flow through right now to the traffic to Newfoundland through Marine Atlantic. So it's not just the development of our port and its assets, it's the existing opportunities that could make it real today.
Mr. Strasser.
Sydney as a seaport is the closest point to Europe, and why we haven't built on that for 100 years amazes me. I don't know why the railway has been allowed to deteriorate to the state it is today, but if we're going to get goods from Europe to the Canada and ship it anywhere, the best place to do it is through Sydney, And if we want to take resources from elsewhere in Canada and ship it out to Europe easily, it again should be through cities. So how the rail line got to the state it is today, I really don't have any idea. I have a question though I'd like to know. Can I ask the question? What is the amount of money that is in the current year budget for the container terminal?
Does that conclude? Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. The port. Isn't everybody tired of hearing about the port that never happened? It seems like it's never going to happen. Well, it may happen, but it's not going to happen until the private sector deems it so. We can make rails out of solid gold. The port is not going to be here until the private sector, meaning the big companies like Maersk, decide they need to be here, and not a day before. And as far as the rail goes, yeah, who wouldn't want to see our rail back? The province is paying out $60,000 a month so that our rail doesn't deteriorate. And if you look around, all our rail is deteriorate, and council has dropped the ball again. They're not on the province saying, come down, fix this rail that you're getting paid to fix, or that we're paying to fix, and nobody's putting any pressure on this company that owns this rail line. Where is council when all this is happening? Not a word from them. They let the rail go too. It's gone now. The infrastructure is gone. It has to be replaced. And the province was paying $60,000 a month for this, and the two incumbents did nothing about it. Nothing. Thank you.
Okay, 30 seconds to circle back. We'll start with Mr. McCachran.
Okay. Yesterday I had the opportunity to go down to Whitney Pier. I spoke with a gentleman, a retired gentleman from CN Rail. We did take a drive. He showed me a lot of the rail that was falling apart, the neglect that was given to it. He was totally disgusted. I understand that. I've worked with things. I want to see things brought up to where they were before. Again, one of the biggest questions that myself, and I'm sure a large number of constituents here in Cape Breton want to know, is how much of that container port does the CBRM actually control? The biggest thing.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. So coming back to the question at hand being rail, I think it's important that we do, like I said, consult with all of the neighbors that we have throughout the island and come up with a business case. Explain how the investment of tax dollars that are provided by the public into a project like revitalizing the rail is going to benefit them. Let's talk about the businesses that are not just here in the CBRM, but around this island, and show the economic impact that that investment will have. If you can,
time.
oh, sorry.
Mayor Clark.
So building on the Premier's commitment of $60,000 a month for preservation, he wouldn't do that if he didn't see a business case before him and the provincial government. But we also have to look at what's happening within our community. Aside from the firm commitment I have on Novaport, look what Member 2 is doing at the Cisco site and at Sidport and areas, Eskazoni with cold storage. When we look at East Coast metal fabricators constructing millions of dollars worth of barges that take a lot of import of raw materials that we could be putting on rail. When we look at 9 barges.
Clerk.
Okay.
Mr. Strasser.
No, I'll pass on this one. Let it go.
Okay, Mr. Abbas.
I'm sorry? Oh, pardon me. You know, if I hear Mr. Clark or Councillor McDougall talk any more about building on successes and reaching our full potential, I think I'm going to hit myself in the head with a hammer. We're on the verge of financial collapse. And these people are talking about building on successes and reaching our full potential when we got kids going hungry in the CBRM and our infrastructure is crumbling away to nothing. I don't know. Thank you.
That's time. All right, we'll now move on to the next question. Research shows that a key piece of community economic development and regional revitalization is having a strong downtown core and a regional nucleus. Having a strong, vibrant downtown core benefits the entire region and surrounding communities by supporting a strong commercial tax base, attracting local businesses and newcomers alike, as well as supporting the tourism and hospitality sectors. Downtown Sydney is at a pivotal stage in economic development, and over the past several years, work has been done in planning for an improved Charlotte Street, which will include wider sidewalks, streetscaping, and buried power. This project would also increase the assessed value of current real estate, attract new businesses, decrease the commercial vacancy rate, and increase community morale and sense of pride, just to name a few outcomes. It is quoted in the Acoustics report from 2017 that Charlotte Street is the main street of Cape Breton Island. Given that Charlotte Street is already set to undergo a major wastewater system upgrade, this project presents a rare opportunity to leverage already approved government funding to make both projects, if done simultaneously, economically feasible. So the question is, as mayor, will you work to make this significant opportunity for our region happen? And if so, how will you work with all levels of government to secure this additional funding needed to achieve the revitalization of our main street within our regional municipality? We'll start with Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. The downtown revitalization plan was one of the more exciting conversations that was had around the council table in the past 4 years. Kathleen's correct. You need to have a strong downtown core in order to grow your water municipality. The good thing is that we actually have many downtown cores. But if we are focusing on downtown Sydney right now, the fact that we have a cruise industry that is just growing, and I can't wait for COVID to pass to see the people come back, we have to accommodate and be prepared for that. It's no use in being in sitting along the sidelines and saying, oh, well, you know, there's too much poverty is taking over and all these bad things are happening. The way to alleviate all of those issues is to create business, to create opportunity, to be creative in terms of bringing more accommodations downtown, making it more accessible and affordable for people to actually access services. That's all part of downtown revitalization. It is in part, a big part about business growing, but it's also about bringing people closer to the services that they need most. If we can go back to the province and ask for permissions to come up with interesting and creative programs like we have with the phased-in tax approach, and do this for our downtown core and say, hey, landlords, if you can find multi-use opportunities for your spaces that bring affordable housing, communal workspaces for nonprofits, and also business together, let's talk about tax incentives.
Mayor Clark?
So one of the things that occurred when we were looking at a second berth, we met with Holland America, our #1 customer that comes in. They said, look, we need extra capacity, thus the second berth, and we'll have that as a core anchor. And they also said, fix your downtown walking experience. That is something that we had low marks on, highest marks for excursions. And I know for some, good news is not good enough, but we've got great news to build on. We have $3.5 million that'll be put in underground water, water lines, sewer extensions, all of the needed Charlotte Street approvals and upgrades. We have a premier that's toured there recently and is very keen on this with the Sydney Downtown Development Association. And we also have a prime minister that is announcing post-pandemic recovery infrastructure and public works projects. This is a natural fit for us to get in there and use and stay within our debt affordability model as a new council and make sure we have this revitalization, but we also have revitalizations in Glace Bay and other communities that are being asked for, as well as our Wi-Fi and adding the other services and amenities people are looking for. So we have a rollout of that, making it so we call programming our streets again. So we have put out for $500,000 looking at North Sydney, Sydney and Glace Bay for Wi-Fi. My plan includes all communities. We have to connect, but we have to have that core asset that comes in, and we have to have it that people feel good about their experience and want to come back, and we need to invest in that core infrastructure now more than ever.
Mr. Strasser?
I think part of the answer you heard from the mayor, the idea to refurbish the downtown is not only a concern for Sydney. CBRM has never grown to the point where it considers itself one unit. It's Glace Bay, it's New Waterford, it's Sydney Mines, North Sydney, Sydney Mines. So if you include the downtown development of each of those units, I think you could move forward with pride. But it's got to be part of the 5 priorities, and it's got to be everybody. It can't be just downtown Sydney. And I'm a Pear boy, so you would think I would support Sydney.
Mr. Abbas?
Thank you. Well, anybody that's from Sydney here can take a drive downtown and see how many empty lots we have down there. It's a little sad, to tell you the truth. I would say the reason for it is because we have the highest residential and commercial taxes in the province and close to the highest in the country. And it seems to me that the incumbents, Mr. Clark and Councillor McDougall, have done nothing about this for the last 4 years. All of a sudden now we're before election time and, oh, we got to take care of these taxes. Look, they're too high. Well, they've been too high for the last 4 years. That's a no-brainer to me. Thank you.
Mr. McEachran?
Okay, yes, definitely, we do have to rejuvenate the downtown area of Sydney. Charlotte Street is very, very important. It is the main street in Sydney. As far as taxes go, taxes here are just outrageous. To bring affordable housing in, a landlord, the amount of taxes they're paying on a rental unit right now is just on bloody real. People don't realize they think if they're coming in, they're paying $800 a month to a landlord. The landlord gets that. No, they don't. There is an incredible amount of tax on those rentals. We have to work to get that lowered. I myself, I have rental units. My family do. I know what it's like. I work with people. I try to give them the best rates I possibly can without going under on my rental units. We've got to work with people. Not just downtown Sydney. See, I toured Sydney Mines. I've toured North Sydney. I've toured Glace Bay. I've toured New Waterford. I've been all the way through Port Moreton. I've been right as far as St. Peter's in the last few days. A lot of areas need a lot of work. We have to get things going. The downtown is very, very important to us for tourism right now because we want to get the ships back in after the COVID is done with, which is hopefully very soon. But we have to get things going. We all have to work to get this whole community working together.
Okay, we're going to circle back for 30 seconds each, starting back with Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. So our council in the past 4 years have proven that we do have the creativity and ability to get permission from the province to do things like have a phased-in tax program for the historic downtowns. Now we need to take that further. We have to make sure that we're combining that with the very important point of population growth. We need people here, and we need to be able to attract more people here, to attract more businesses to invest here in order to keep moving forward. If we can take that phased-in tax program and really, really use it to our advantage and say, okay, hey, property owners, my apologies.
Mayor Clark?
So we also need to build on our success. When you look at with a second berth, that accomplishment has seen a helipad and Brett and Air taking advantage of an opportunity. We have new excursion businesses that are opening up. We see opportunities now for Atlantic Memorial Park as well as the Fossil Center to realize getting into the business. But we need that hub. And to do that means you're going to move people. And look at Carabins. They've 3 more buses, $700,000 each investing. People are investing because public funds are investing, and our downtown must be one of those core investments.
Mr. Strasser?
I think the answer lies in that all of you folks have to get involved in where the CBRM is going. It's not good enough to say, well, we have 12 councillors, we have a mayor to do that, because there's no IQ test done before people run. It's a personality, organization, partisan vote. And shame on the CBRM if it doesn't take in enough people.
That's time.
Okay.
Mr. Abbas?
Thank you. Well, we haven't really talked about equalization, and I don't really want to talk about it, but if there are any funds out there, I really think the first thing we should do with it is try to give the commercial and the residential taxpayers a break. But if we can give these commercial taxpayers a break, I think it'll jumpstart our economy around here. But as far as Councillor McDougall and Mayor Clark, they've done nothing in the last 4 years. Councillor McDougall says all kinds of ideas,
That's
but
time.
nothing. Thank you.
Mr. McEachran?
Okay, with the development, I think that the CBRM should step in, help people get small business opened. Right now, it's very hard for a person to step in, open a small business on their own. There should be some type of programs for them, developed by the CBRM. Let's work with people. Let's get business opened. There are a lot of vacant businesses down along Charles Street and everywhere in Sydney. Everywhere in the whole CBRM, there's a lot of vacant businesses. Let's get these places opened. Help small people, students, newcomers to our country. Very, very important to us. Our children growing up, very, very important to us.
That's time.
Thank you.
All right, on to the next question, which is a good segue in from the last conversation or discussion. So another hot topic and key issue within our community is the cap. It is understood that one of the fundamental problems of our taxation system due to the cap is that our commercial tax base here in Cape Breton or in the CBRM carries our residential tax base, which in turn causes it to be the highest commercial tax base in the province and some of the highest in the country. This prevents us from attracting investment in an existing infrastructure, the construction of new infrastructure, and the ability for some small business to own or rent space throughout our region. So the question is, as mayor, Do you plan on addressing the commercial tax rate specifically, beyond simply stating that you will address the cap? And what is one specific way that you would encourage investment and promote economic activity throughout the CBRM, even with the commercial tax rate as it stands today? We'll start with Mayor Clark.
Thank you for that question, and it's not a light one, and it's one we've been grappling with. With regards to our commercial tax rate, the cap is in place because the provincial legislature can't come to consensus to address that for us. I think we need to establish a charter that will give us the Crown authority to make those decisions and have that flexibility, both commercial as well as residential. We need to phase in and we need to provide incentives. We need to say if people are going to invest in our community more than just one little zone, to have the legislative flexibility to include all of the CBRM, because we have traditional economies that shouldn't be shut out of opportunities. And in terms of engaging the business community, I have the Mayor's Task Force on the commercial tax rate, all volunteer business people that are offering up. And what we're finding around the table is there's no quick fix. A $13 million one-year adjustment would be necessary. That is a huge impact on the bottom line without other supports. But we're making the business case by including the business community, and a new council will eventually get a report from the task force. I look for the public support to help lead that process forward. And as we deal with this, we have to take a look again at new incentives that the CBRM have to be in control of, new processes for engagement, and overall take away some of the impediments that have been driven at us by, quite frankly, the legislature, and it hasn't worked, and we need to have that level of an even playing field here at home now.
Mr. Strasser.
Well, I think the cap is a good thing for all the people that have the cap. It's very unfair from a business viewpoint. And I think the only way you're going to do this, you keep going back to the word priorities. If it's a priority and if it's important, put it on the list and get it done. Don't be back here in 4 years saying we have a problem with the cap and we've got to go talk to the provincial or federal government. The provincial government's only 200 miles away.
Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. Well, the key to our taxes and wresting the grip of the control of our taxes away from the province is the charter. Now, apparently the council's been working on this charter for quite some time. The charter has been sitting on Councillor McDougall's desk for the last 2 years. Now she'll tell you that they had to do a provincial study, so they couldn't do anything until the provincial study was up. The provincial study was up not this July, previous July. It's been sitting on her desk for 15 to 16 months now with absolutely nothing happening on it. And the charter is essential to us, like I say, wrestling the grip of taxation away from the province and letting us have our own say in it. And as far as the cap goes, the province is going to remove the cap whether we like it or not, sooner or later, probably sooner than later. And we're going to have to phase this in properly. I'm not really sure how that'll be done, but I'm sure that's a matter for the Chief Accounting Officer. Thank you.
Mr. McEachran.
Okay, we do have to remove the cap. The caps they have on right now are ridiculous. We have a task force, like Mr. Clark said. I haven't seen or heard anything from them myself, at being a business owner. I know nothing about this task force. Mr. Abbas mentioned that this project has been sitting on Amanda's desk for 2 years. One of the things I'm going to do as soon as I get in there, we're going to start working on it. We're going to get things going. I want all the councillors that are elected, myself, if I get in as mayor, we want to get this done. Get working on it. Let's get it done as fast as possible.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. So you really can't talk about the cap separate from commercial taxes. They are incredibly intertwined, and one directly affects the other. When you do want to change it, we do need to come up with an idea. We need to come up with a strategy and go to the province with, like Mr. Abbas was talking about, a charter. A charter is something you cannot just jot down, excuse me, on a piece of paper and go forward with. We've seen what happened with the Halifax Regional Municipality when they rushed the charter process, and now they get stuck going back to the legislature time and time again because they need to continue to amend their charter. We have to do this. We have to do this correctly. The province directed us to do the viability study, which we did, come up with a list of recommendations from there in terms of actions, which we did. Unfortunately, COVID has stopped us ever since on acting upon those recommendations, but it's okay. We have time to fix this. We have time to do this correctly and bring the experts in so we don't end up in the same situation as the Halifax Regional Municipality. Rushing something like this means there's going to be errors, and we cannot afford taxpayers, commercial taxpayers and residential taxpayers alike, cannot afford for us to do this incorrectly. It is only going to prolong the current situation and environment that we're living in right now.
All right, it's 30 seconds to each candidate. Mayor Clark?
So we have to look at where we have new opportunities. If you're going to take adversity and turn it into opportunity, we have, thanks to being able to facilitate at the municipal level or projects we're doing, over $1 billion of provincial projects. It's going to infuse more money. We see people building new buildings, new tax revenue, and so we're going to have to forecast that in terms of our own capacity to go to that table and have locally based solutions that we can offer up. And we're going to have, as I say, hundreds of millions of dollars of municipal projects building on. We see it all through our community. We see people hiring, we see people investing, and it will create some new revenue streams.
Mr. Strasser?
I'm going to go back again to the priorities because it's very important. You can't solve the problems of CBRM by doing the paving a couple of days before election time, which we're doing in Sydney Mines in Sydney. You've got to take the issues that are important to you and you've got to solve the problems. You can't come back in 4 years and say, well, we're just looking at it, or COVID's in the way, or whatever.
That's time. Mr. Abbas?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to clarify something that Councillor McDougall said. She said that they finished the study and then COVID hit. They finished the study last July. There were little or no restrictions until November, or I even think December of last year. So this vital and important charter sat on her desk for 4 months with no action whatsoever on it. Thank you.
Mr. McCachran?
Okay, I would actually love to see that report, if possible. So, and no disrespect meant to you at all, Mr. McDougall. I appreciate everybody up here and everybody being able to chat on a friendly basis today. This task force, like I said, I still haven't seen the task force. I'd like to speak with them. I'd like to work, try to get things going for ourselves. This is the CBRM. The CBRM has to be the CBRM. We're not Halifax, we are the CBRM.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall?
Thank you. So I invite anybody to take a look online at the CBRM's website, because all of our reports and our studies are there and accessible by anyone. In terms of not being able to work through COVID and bringing people together, correct. Before that, what we did was look through that viability study, work with our staff who are the experts in the CBRM to understand what recommendations can be taken from the viability study and what can be put into action. Mr. Abbas, please, please watch back and understand how council works
Thank
too.
you,
Not one
Councillor.
person
Thank
can
you.
make a decision.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question. This question was submitted by our sponsor for today's event, the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors. In considering strategies to reverse out-migration and attract both domestic and international immigration to our region, making it easier for first-time homebuyers to purchase a home in our region is one way to encourage that investment and attraction. Given that many first-time homebuyers have a number of expenses associated with purchasing a home, including the deed transfer tax, which is a tax by the municipal government, as mayor, would you consider making changes to the deed transfer tax? And what other ideas may you have as mayor to incentivize young people or newcomers to come and live and invest here in our municipality? We'll start with Mr. Strasser.
Two things. I've heard so many sad stories of people who don't want to come here because of the tax base. It's almost scary. And the idea of keeping more young people here, and I have a son that works in Philadelphia, you have to provide opportunities for them. If they don't have the challenges in front of them, they're gone. And they're never coming back in most cases, except summer on the Mayoral. Other than that, not at all.
Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. Well, everybody in this room knows how high the taxes are in CBRM. It's got to the point now where people are leaving here just so they can afford to live in their homes. The time for that is past. I really think we need to develop a new system of taxation, one that's a little bit easier for the average person to understand, because what I'm hearing from these two incumbents, to be honest with you, is a lot of jibber-jabber about taxes and a lot of numbers thrown around, not so much about taxes, but about different things they're doing. And that's what incumbents tend to do. They tend to throw out numbers out there so the people that are not incumbents will be a little intimidated. I'm not a little intimidated by the numbers Mr. Clark throws out or by the numbers that Councillor McDougall throws out. The bottom line here is they've both dropped the ball for the last 4 years, and they don't seem to want to do anything about it until the last 3 weeks, till 3 weeks ago when the campaign started. Other than that, it's been business as usual. And if you take either one of these councillors and elect them a mayor, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get another 4 years of exactly the same thing. Thank you.
Mr. McCachran.
Okay, we do have to work. We do have to get jobs created here in Cape Breton. We do have a lot of people leaving area to go for work. The reason they're leaving here is the wages. There's not enough work here. We have to increase our minimum wage in this area. We have to get projects going. We have to create jobs. Jobs is stability. Stability is a home. I have a lot of foreign workers working for me. They love the CBRM. I've got a lot of them asking me to help sponsor them to stay in Canada when they're finished their studies. They want to stay here. They love this area. I'm working with them in every way I can to help them in every way I can. I want to see the whole CBRM work with them as well. It is a great place. I love it here. This is home. The CBRM is home to me. It's home to everybody now. The newcomers to Canada, the new Canadians, the new Cape Bretoners. Let's work with everybody. Let's make this happen. Let's make this a beautiful place to live again.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you kindly. So I think this is an opportunity for us to be creative, and I think that word is very important going forward. We have to be creative. We could come up with and talk with the folks that are more knowledgeable about the deed transfer tax and the negative impacts, talk about how we can take some of that money and the revenues that are coming from the deed transfer tax and reinvest them into our newcomers or the folks that we're welcoming back into Cape Breton. We also need to look at the options in front of us in terms of growing our community. If we grow our community, we have a larger tax base, we have more money to invest in services and to be able to then decrease our tax rates. We can look at things like the opportunity a municipal nominee program will have. Immigration in itself is an act of entrepreneurialism. We can then, as a municipality, say, we need people to work in this labor sector or in this sector. Design what we need to fill the gaps that we have right now to be able to grow and sustain our community. Again, it's time to get creative. It's time to take what we have and grow on it before we start going out and looking for new money. We have a huge amount of opportunity here right now through Cape Breton University, Nova Scotia Community College, and the people that are attending those institutions. While I was working on the immigration pilot at CBU, it was incredible to hear the optimism from folks there saying, Cape Breton Regional Municipality is a blank slate.
Mayor Clark.
This is a very important topic, and when you look at just the deed transfer tax alone, so from a revenue source, because the housing market is so high and people are investing commercially, the revenue sources are going up. But it's also a contrary tax because it's holding back development. Home purchasers see it after the fact and they get whacked with an extra bill. This is provincially legislation, again, in terms of having new incentives we can bring forward through a charter to look at new construction as well as new home ownership that we can have through a legislative change that would allow for a phase-in assessment as well. Look at the process of eliminating, as I mentioned before, we're going to have new revenue sources come in by virtue of the billion plus in developments in our community. That will be able to offset, become more business friendly, deal with our tax situation. We've done things like in the New Aberdeen and Glace Bay, where we're trying to help communities revitalize. We had over 800 abandoned homes. We've reduced that by over 400. We're making strides, but those lots could be redeveloped, and we need to have an attractive price put with those. We see in the Northside Industrial Park, taking land that was unused, selling for $3,000 an acre. The people are snatching up that land, they're investing, they're creating new tax revenue streams, so we can take some of those punitive taxes away, like deed transfer, and have a new approach. And so we've opened up selling CBRM lands throughout the municipality. We have to be more flexible, and we have to make sure anything we own comes at a better price.
Thank you. We'll now circle back for 30 seconds. Again, the question is, would you consider making changes to the deed transfer tax? And what other ideas do you have as mayor to incentivize young people and newcomers to live and invest here in our municipality? We'll circle back and start with Mr. Strasser. 30 seconds.
You're the Chamber of Commerce. You're the business leaders from the community, and you know the road ahead is not an easy path. It's going to be a rough one. One thought keep in your mind. You're always watching television now with the stuff that's going on in the United States. Constitution of the United States only allows the chief executive officer, the president, an 8-year term limit. There's a reason for that.
Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. The transfer tax is related directly to, and I hate to say it again, the charter that's so very unimportant to Councillor McDougall. I mean, she would have us rob Peter to pay Paul by saying that, oh, if we take the deed transfer tax and redirect it. Well, if they redirect it, they're going to have to take that money from somewhere else. That's the same attitude that the councillor has with children living in poverty. Her solution is she's going to leverage money from the federal and provincial government. That's no solution at all.
That's
Thank
time.
you.
Mr. McCachran.
Mayor Clark mentioned that we've got thousands of vacant properties. Why doesn't CBRM take some of that properties, donate them to organizations like the Boys and Girls Clubs? Get things happening here for the people in their communities. Let's work together. The deed transfer tax, I think, yes, that should definitely be lowered. Anybody that's buying properties knows this. They know how ridiculous it is. Let's lower this. Let's get things going here. Let's donate some of these properties to the Boys and Girls Clubs. Let's get some new organizations open.
That's time. Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. And I think at the end of the day, what we have to do is better welcome people back here or to here for the very first time. We have to show them the benefits of living and working in the CBRM, and we have to actually live that ourselves as a municipal council. We need to make it easier and more accessible to get data, to have folks that are prepared for the realities of what the CBRM is when they get here so they're not surprised by high tax rates. We need to work alongside welcoming people.
Mayor Clark.
So the last few years, we've done a great job negotiating more of our fair share, and we see that all throughout the municipality on many different projects. When it comes to dealing with the deed transfer tax, and I agree that we have to phase it out because it is a punitive tax to people in development. So in order to do that, as we look at phasing in, so as we phase in new revenues because of all the growth and opportunities that are happening in our community, you can phase out the deed transfer tax. That's an option that has a model in place based on the numbers, and I think the Realtor Association would see that the municipality will step out as we have the new revenues to step in and provide.
That's time. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. Immigration and our international student population is integral to our growth and sustainability of our region. Cape Breton University recruitment and the administration of the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Project by the Cape Breton Partnership has been key in this growth. These newcomers, particularly international students from CBU, contribute on average of $38,000 per year to our local economy. That is more than $149 million annually injected back into our local economy right here in the CBRM. The newcomers are contributing directly to our local business community as well, whether they are filling key roles as employees to our local businesses or they are entrepreneurs themselves and opening businesses here locally. These students and newcomers are having significant impact here in the CBRM. We also recognize there are a number of challenges that we have with growth like this. Access to transit is one such challenge that has already begun to be addressed by Mayor and Council. As Mayor, what will you do in your role to support the attraction and retention of newcomers and international students here in our community? And how will you play a role in creating a place and community where they want to invest, work, and live for the long term? We'll start with Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. Well, the international students are kind of a hot topic. I addressed it at the last debate, and my answer was taken out of context, so I'll give it again. The international students should not and are not a fiscal priority to CBRM. Both incumbents on either side of me, you can check the record. There hasn't been one motion made in council about foreign students, international students. There hasn't been anything done for them, period. The point that I made at the last debate was that These foreign students, yes, they are. They're very important, and they're a big part of our economy. But they're not more important than the people struggling with poverty-related issues. And anybody in this room or anywhere that thinks that, we need to look after these international students before we need to look after our own, if people are not aware of this, but the international students pay twice the tuition to come here and go to school. And in most cases, they come from affluent families. That doesn't mean all of them, but in most cases, they're from affluent families. Would the incumbents have us take care of these students over our own residents in the CBRM that are struggling with poverty-related issues? If you ask them, I don't think they would agree. Thank you.
Mr. McCachran.
Well, I think I made my point quite clear in our last debate. I believe that the students are very, very, very important to us. I own businesses. We are frontline workers. If it was not for the foreign students stepping up and working their asses off, excuse my language, I wouldn't have had a business. You would not have been safe. They were in cleaning and sanitizing the stores, keeping everybody in this area safe. They've done a beautiful job of it, and they're still doing it. I'm very proud of them. I'm very happy to say that I'm not just their employer, I'm their friend. I like working with them. They're not more important than everybody else. Everybody is equal in every way possible. I am very happy to say that I, myself, enjoy working with everyone, not just international students, everyone. It makes me angry to hear people say that they're not more important. No, they're not. Everybody is equal. Let's get this straight right now. Everybody in the CBRM is equal.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. So we first need to understand where the opportunities are before we start toting any type of immigration or growth strategy. One way of doing that is to ensure that at each council meeting we have a standing agenda item that opens the floor to businesses. Businesses are the ones who are going to tell us where the labor gaps are, where the opportunity for investment lies. Making sure that this happens on a regular basis and that we have folks like the Chamber of Commerce, we have our Regional Enterprise Network, we have those industry experts come in and tell us where we can now focus our strategy on bringing in newcomers and inviting our international students to stay on after their studies have concluded. That's how you do it. You have to be prepared. You have to plan this out. Just opening up the doors and saying, come in, there's opportunity, but not having a plan to help them alongside their very difficult process of immigrating here, quite frankly, is not going to be beneficial. We, again, like I said before, have an opportunity to be first out of the gate in terms of creating a municipal nominee program that fits CBRM. We might not have the year-round opportunities for work that, kind of are the typical requirements of immigration streams, but if we can design a plan that helps with, say, seasonal workers, so you can have some,
Mayor Clark.
So one of the things we have an opportunity, and it's a universal opportunity, and that, as I said before, for the first time in our lifetime, we're going to have more jobs than people. So that means we are going to be able to accommodate newcomers and make sure that people have an opportunity to move here and be part of our community and invest. One of the things that Cape Breton Partnership and our settlement associations are doing very well is reaching out. I as well have met with Councillor McDougall and brought our international students in. We're available to the Cape Breton Students' Union. I've been very pleased to participate in those environments. But oftentimes when you look at where the opportunities lie, both provincially and federally, is the labor market opportunity. So the labor market is going to help us drive those immigration numbers, whether it's a municipal nominee or the federal programs. The Cape Breton Partnership is working steadfast at this to make sure that they are helping to drive those numbers based upon our reality and where we're going. So I see a great opportunity that we can actually have people be educated here, stay here, return here, and be newcomers here in the future. This isn't an us or them, it's a win-win opportunity, and thankfully, as I say, the provincial and federal programs will allow for those numbers to increase, so students who want to stay won't be forced going somewhere else, but they can be settled here on Cape Breton and be part of a vibrant new economy and a new future for us all.
Mr. Strasser.
This entire region was built on immigration. I dare say that most of you in the audience have grandparents who came here from somewhere else. People are looking for new opportunities in different places in the world. They should be encouraged to come here. They can't do it without CBU leadership if they're coming for education. They want to be happy, they want a chance to be productive, even at small jobs, and they want to be included. We had more than 1,000 students at St. Clair College in Windsor when I was president and CEO for 15 years. We took them to Niagara Falls, we took them to music festivals. The things that made them happy, and it was very easy to identify those, are the things that will make this a better community for everybody.
Thank you. We're going to circle back, 30 seconds each. Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. I had to almost sit down for a second because I almost fell down when I heard Mr. Clark say, we're going to have more jobs than people. I have no idea where that comes from. Maybe sometime in the future, but I don't think in the next 4 years. I mean, I'd like to see it, but not. But I have an open question to both the incumbents. What would their priority be? Would it be the children or people living in poverty or poverty-related issues, or the students?
Time. Mr. McCachran?
Excuse me. The time is getting late here. I do apologize. I have children in school. I'm going to have to run very shortly to see them, or pick them up from school, I should say. CBRM students, the newcomers to Canada, I'd like to see their tuitions get dropped. I'd like to see CBRM work somehow to have it dropped. They've just been hit with another $300 per course surcharge. They have no in-class training. They're only allowed to work
That's
20
time.
hours per week.
Thank you. Councilor McDougall?
Thank you. Thank you. So it is good and important to have these large goals of overall population growth strategy and ultimately stabilization, but there are lots of little tiny projects that can make huge impact. If we look at our downtown cores and land that is owned by the municipality or spaces that are owned by the municipality, have somewhere that students can go and purchase tickets to actually get on the bus. That is something that the students' unions mentioned to me very recently. Something so simple that can have a huge impact and make people feel like they are valued.
Mayor Clark?
So we're going to look at what government is facilitating. We ask about people coming, but more importantly, how they stay. We are investing in a better transit system. We're investing in better Wi-Fi and broadband. Our libraries are important and they're key infrastructure items. We have new education facilities, our healthcare facilities, our recreation facilities. The CBRM is helping facilitate what a municipality should do, and that's core infrastructure to have a great quality of life and living, and that's a role of mayor and council, and expecting the provincial and federal governments to do their job and allowing the private sector to do what it does best, and that's invest.
Perfect. And Mr. Strasser?
This is not a top of the agenda topic for the municipality as an elected group. This belongs really in the role of CBU for two reasons. They pay a lot more money than a normal student from Canada to go to CBU, and if they have a good experience, they will spread that word and you will get others. If you don't do that, you risk a decline in enrollment from international students.
Thank you. Okay, we are, I recognize Mr. McCachran if you wish to leave. We're close to 1:30. I don't know how eager you are all to get back to your place of work, but we do have one last question. So I think I'm gonna go for it and squeeze it in. And, but what we'll do is we'll eliminate the final 30 seconds, so everybody will have their 90 seconds to respond, and then we'll move forward.
Okay, just want to make a comment. I want to thank all of the candidates, each and every one of you for being here today. I want to thank everybody watching on Facebook and on live stream. It's been a pleasure being here with everyone today. I do apologize, I have to leave. I do have to get my children. Children are the future.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you so much.
See you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay. Due to the pandemic, Cape Breton's local small businesses, including local tourism and the hospitality sector, have suffered significantly. With the loss of cruise ships, major events, and other tourism from outside Atlantic Canada, as well as the many restrictions placed on the local businesses and loss of jobs within our region over the last 8 months, our local economy is suffering. As mayor, what do you believe is your role when it comes to the recovery of our business community over the next four years, including our tourism and hospitality sector, beyond the supports that our federal and provincial governments have done thus far? We'll start with Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. I think the first thing that we can do as mayor and council is keep everything as local as possible. We have to go back to our procurement policies and ensure that we are making the changes necessary to focus on our local businesses and invest what we possibly can locally. The other thing we need to do is be prepared to support all of our businesses and their unique needs. Again, like I had mentioned, one of the ideas I had in my platform is making sure that we do have at every single council meeting a standing agenda item where businesses are able to consistently have space and tell us what we can do to make things better for them. There's no one person that's going to sit around that council table that will have all the answers, and if we don't rely on business, who are the experts, to tell us what we can do within our jurisdiction and what we can advocate for outside of our jurisdiction, we're doing a disservice to our local businesses. We also need to have our staff prepare us to give you the information for what resources and supports are available out there. We do know on a daily basis things are changing in terms of investment coming down from the federal and provincial government in terms of supports. We need to make that information flow to you as quickly and as easily as possible, and make sure that we in turn are making our business procedures within the municipality as easy as possible as well. If that's upping our technology, making it easier for you to gather data, making sure...
It's time. Mayor Clark?
Great question that we have to really focus on, and I think part of it is about new engagement process, but some of it's to go back. And I would welcome the Chamber of Commerce to establish doing an annual report card process of where we have a government relations committee that engage with the municipality, talk about where gaps are, where have we made improvements, where do we have to do more, and do it also at the provincial and federal level. We've sat around the table with the Construction Association of Nova Scotia with all of our staff, and they've said, we're making vast improvements, but there's more we need to do. Some of it is by using technology better. Some of it is by waiving fees to come through COVID. I look at the patio licensing fees were waived during COVID just to allow people to get back out, spend money, have some hospitality, and feel good at a time when a lot of people are concerned. So we have the capacity, again, with the road builders. We've changed our tendering processes to make sure as much local work is done as possible rather than these large tenders. It's about looking at breaking those things down on an annual basis, putting the extra effort in at the municipal level to get better community outcomes. So a lot of it really is rolling up our sleeves, coming through this pandemic. As much as some have done well, others are suffering, and by this fall, cash flow is going to be a real issue when we have to work with the provincial and federal governments on their programs and be prepared as a municipality to say, if we have a permit or fee we can waive to keep those businesses whole, then we should play that role. Community groups as well, that are the backbone of much economic activity, are suffering, and we have a plan in place to support and assist.
That's time. Thank you. Mr. Strasser?
You need to make sure what's available out there from the provincial and the federal governments. You need to make absolutely sure that you've identified the needs of the people who are really hurting by COVID. And the only way you can really do that, I believe, is getting the people with boots on the ground, if I can use the old phrase, who will come and share with the council, with the mayor, what they need to survive in the short and long term.
Mr. Abbas?
Thank you. Well, I believe that the mayor and council and everybody in the CBRM should be absolutely following the province's directive. I mean, they have a team of people that have been constantly working on this. I don't know why council feels they have to reinvent the wheel. All they have to do is just facilitate the directives that come down from the province. The rest of it, I think, is, I won't say a waste of council's time, because I'm sure there are some minor things that council can tweak for them. But other than that, the directive comes from the province, and why would they want to reinvent the wheel? Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the formal questions. For anyone who has attended a chamber event pre-COVID, I guess, with the Premier and our MPs, we ended on a more lighter note and did some popcorn questions, as we call them. So instead of me kind of rotating, so just for the sake of time, we'll start with Mayor Clark and with Mayor, sorry, not Mayor, maybe, Councillor McDougall. And I'm just going to ask quick questions, one answer responses, meant to be light. So we'll start with Mayor Clark. What do you think is CBRM's biggest opportunity?
Our people.
Mr. Abbas?
Tourism.
water and the people.
Our culture.
Excellent. One word you would use to describe your leadership style.
Consistent.
Assertive.
Participation.
Patient.
One word you describe Cape Breton's biggest strength.
Again, our people.
Again, tourism.
People.
Our character.
Your favorite all-time politician.
John Buchanan.
Pierre Trudeau.
Pierre Trudeau.
AOC.
What is one thing you would like, one thing new you would like to learn?
Mi'kmaq.
How to play golf.
I've just signed up for saxophone lessons.
I'd like to sew.
The best advice you've ever received.
My grandmother, consider the source. True.
Best advice I ever received. Wow. I'd have to say, if you have nothing good to say, maybe say nothing.
Okay,
Mr. Strasser.
but you got to say something. If you're not smart enough, if they're not smart enough to listen, what makes you think they're smart enough to do anything about it?
I think listen twice and speak once.
What are the words that you personally live by?
Father J.J. MacDonald, love all and trust a few.
Mr. Abbas?
I don't know if I have any words that I live by. If I was to have to come up with some right now, I'd just say respect others as you'd like to be respected.
Honesty.
Just to find the humor in every situation.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
Touche.
So that concludes the question and answer discussion with our candidates. Thank you all so much for each taking the time to join us today, and thank you for providing our business community with the opportunity to hear directly from you on the topics in relation to business and economic development here in the CBRM. Again, all of you know, I'm sure, but voting does begin tomorrow by phone and online, and will remain open until Saturday, October 17th. So that is just 11 short days until we find out who will be leading our regional government for the next 4 years. I hope that each of you found today's mayoral candidate forum to be helpful in shaping your decision and your vote. I do want to say thank you to Member 2 for hosting us and for certainly allowing us to feel safe during this in-person event, the first for the Chamber. I also want to say thank you to the Chamber staff, Erica, Michaela, and Megan, for all their hard work. And as people leave the building today, I ask that you all put on your mask and respect social distancing, and I wish you all safe travels back to your place of work. Thank you again.